Hi everyone, Patricia Worby, Alchemy Therapies here. I just wanted to speak today a little bit about my journey through anxiety, which I've recorded 3 podcasts already on this, but this is number 4, because it is a journey and I am in recovery, as it were. I'm charting the onset and the progress, and started about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and was linked to a process I've been going through for actually menopausal symptoms, which were hot sweats at night particularly. And I went for acupuncture because I heard that was good for hormonal irregularities, and obviously the GPs can't really offer you much more than HRT or antidepressants. Those are the 2 arms that both pharmaceutical options, which I don't want to go down. So I chose to have acupuncture, little knowing that it would trigger the most extraordinary wave of anxiety, which felt totally visceral in my guts. Basically, my guts were clenching. So the first 3 have been sort of describing how that came on, what it felt like, how I dealt with it. I now feel, finally, after 5 weeks or so of being on various Chinese herbs, now, and the acupuncture in combination, that I am coming through it. And something quite remarkable, some shift is happening in my body. Not least of which is obviously when this was triggered, the initial diagnosis said my liver was overactive and my kidneys were underactive, and that's a sort of Chinese medicine understanding that one is heat and one is cooling, or one is yin and one is yang. And in the body energy systems, you need balance always. So it's a slightly different understanding to the conventional medical view, which says I've got too little estrogen, or, too much cortisol. But overall, they do make sense. Both explanations kind of have part of the truth. Now, obviously, if you then boost the liver to release toxins, which is why it's overheating, and the rest of your body isn't clear and ready to excrete those toxins, then they recirculate in the system, and obviously the brain is linked to your blood system. So it seems a likely explanation that I had a lot of toxicity accumulated over many years, which is why I've been putting on weight as well. I've lost 8 pounds now, just without trying, really. Just amazing. Just don't want to eat as much, don't have the sort of cravings I had. So something's clearing out. And the other thing I noticed was when I had a shower the last couple of years, after I got out of the shower and I look in the mirror and I have a rash under my liver. Don't know if any of you have ever noticed that. Have a look next time you come out of the shower. Women particularly. Women have a lot more fat. Not being disparaging here. I mean, as a proportion of your body weight, women have more fat. And the purpose of that is largely to do with childbirth. We're designed to have children and support the growth of another organism. So we have a lot more fat than men, and therefore fat being not only a hormonal tissue, it produces hormones, it's also a storage tissue for toxicity, because a lot of the toxins present in our environment today are fat soluble. So, a lot of the organophosphates, for instance, glyphosate, which I used to use routinely because I was a gardener. It's a pesticide. So I think if you look at that women are biologically different. We have different hormones. Obviously, we have less testosterone, more estrogen, although men have, both of those as well. That women are more likely to therefore get toxic. Not obviously compared to some men working in very heavy industry, for instance, where they're exposed on a daily basis, but on average, women's hair care products, their makeup, perhaps they do more of the household chores and cleaning products. Household cleaning products are full of toxins as well. Anything with an artificial smell, like deodorizers, plug-ins for your home, lemon fresh. I've never seen a lemon. It's all chemically made in factories, and there is there is a long-term accumulation of these toxins, particularly airborne ones that you breathe in. They have to go somewhere. And it seems like the liver, being your organ of detoxification, is one of the ones that's most vulnerable. Now, if you ask a medic, they will say, you know, the body has perfectly good, adequate mechanisms for getting rid of toxins. But what they're not looking at is the huge onslaught now in our environment of airborne and household toxicity, and the fact that women's organ systems are a third less big than men's. Our lungs, kidneys, liver, in general, are a lot smaller. So we've got double the burden and only 2/3 of the excretion detoxification capability. Look, check it out. This is true. I'm not making this up. It's verified science. It's just that most GPs are not trained to know this, and they simply don't know gender differences. They do know, however, that a lot of women are coming into their surgeries saying, I feel terrible, I feel I can't sleep, or I sweat like me, you know, or I'm agitated all the time. And just as a little aside, I met somebody yesterday who had completely unaware that she has thyroid issues. She asked me how I was, and I just said, I'm going through menopause and it's been a bit tough. And she was like, oh, tell me about it. This is, women of a certain age will want to share this because they feel alone in suffering symptoms. And she said, you know, I'm losing my hair and, you know, it's awful. I'm getting thin on top. And I said, show me your nails. And she showed me her nails, very clear, ridged nails, vertical ridged nails, no half moons. I said, you've got low thyroid. I said, you need to get it checked. That's a cardinal sign. Really? She said, I've had those for years. I said, you've been low thyroid for years. I said, it probably came on after your children. Have you had children? She said, yes, I have. And I said, and I bet you had postnatal depression. And she said, I did. Now, this is naturopathic understanding. I've done a podcast on this, actually. I'll link it in at the bottom. But it's a webinar, actually, with slides. So thyroid function, very linked to other hormones in the body. So nothing is separate in the body. It's all a system. So, you know, I've had low thyroid for years, which I'm sure has not helped my liver clear out, because basically thyroid controls metabolism. It controls the amount of energy you are able to burn, and hence the weight gain as well. So once one thing is off, many other systems are going to be affected as well. So GPs don't get trained in systems. They get trained in isolated specialties, as they're called. So, you know, the gastro system, GI tract, they look at bones, osteoporosis and things like that. They look at endocrinology is perhaps the closest understanding to the whole system nature of the body, but it doesn't look at how that interacts with your gut microbiome, for instance, or your brain, because what feeds the gut or toxifies the gut affects your brain as well. So there's a huge missing link in medical training, which means that your doctor, if you went to your doctor and said, yeah, okay, like me, if I go to the doctor and I say I've got hot sweats, and they'll probably nod and say, well, it's your age, isn't it? So, you know, you're whatever you are, 50, 55, you know, you're going through menopause. But the thing is that in cultures where, you know, people are socially connected, where they have support, where they have a good whole food and fresh fish diet. In Japan, for instance, in more traditional communities there, menopause is not a problem. Menopause is just another part of life where, you know, your periods stop and you become an older woman. In this country and in most Western nations, it's seen as a medical condition, and it needs a pharmaceutical approach, according to medicine now. Now, obviously, I disagree with that fundamentally because I'm a naturopath. I see the value in pharmaceuticals in some cases, but they're dished out like sweets, and they're you know, nobody's asking the patient in front of them what's going on in your life right now. And if my GP had asked that, she would have found out that I'm under a lot of stress because my mother's aging and I'm having to do more caring for her. And it's profoundly emotional, because to watch somebody decline like that is hard when it's somebody you love and care for and have known all your life. But they don't ask those questions. What they want is to take blood, do blood tests, which I'm happy to do, but it doesn't really go to the core of a human being and ask what's going on with you. So it's largely down to the fact that the training isn't there. They would never ask you, for instance, to look at your nail, show me your nails or your tongue. Now, obviously, Chinese medicine often looks at the tongue, and my acupuncturist always asks to see my tongue because a lot is written on the tongue. It's, after all, it's the top end of your gastrointestinal tract. So what's going on down here will be reflected in your mouth. And if you've got a lot of white on your tongue, for instance, that suggests a yeast overgrowth. You've got a red tip on your tongue, that's deficiency. If you've got corrugations on the side of your tongue where the teeth marks are sort of showing, it's a sort of overheated system. I had that for the same time as I've had this liver rash, and I've been ignoring it, hoping it would go away probably, but now I've had to take action. So they won't ask you those things, but as a naturopath, and if you go to see a naturopath, a naturopathic nutritionist, or anybody, maybe a kinesiologist or chiropractor who specializes in nutrition, they're much more likely to say, let's look at your signs and symptoms, because these things are written on the body. So I've digressed, I know, but basically where I'm at with my recovery, if you like, through anxiety is I'm certainly feeling a lot calmer. I haven't got the gut clenching. Had it a little bit yesterday, but it's not been at all like it was where I could hardly breathe. I'm telling you, it was like I just wanted to curl it up into a little tight ball, and breathing in was really hard because my system was saying, you need to, clench. You've got to be prepared for whatever really bad thing is about to happen. That's what anxiety feels like. Anybody who tells you it's all in the mind, it's not. It's in the mind and body, and it's both external signals and also internal signals. So if your functioning is off, if your liver isn't working properly, or it's dumping too much into your system, and your kidneys aren't being able to filter well, you're going to end up feeling very, very off. And that is a signal to your brain that some threat is present. Because after all, liver failure or liver dysfunction is a threat to your very survival. There are a few organs that we can't survive without. Liver is one of them, heart is the other. Even if your brain switches off to a certain degree, you can still survive, hence being in a vegetative state. But if your liver fails to perform its functions, you die very quickly because you become septic, basically, because you're not cleaning your blood. So any decrease in liver functioning or anything like that is perceived in your brain as a problem, because certain hormonal electrolyte changes in your blood will be delivered to your brain as a message. So it's visceral, it's body-based, it's not just mental thinking. And that's where I think the limit of CBT, the current NHS approach, is to analyze your thoughts and sort of get perspective and reframe things. Well, I'm trained in CBT, and it is valuable for many things, but for this kind of body-based message, it doesn't work so well, because emotions are felt viscerally, feelings are felt in the body. And I realized that what's going on with my mum is part of the equation. Like, that's the trigger for me, because I'm seeing her decline and I'm feeling vulnerable and hopeless and helpless to help her. Even as a naturopath, to intervene in your own family's care is very difficult when they're not signed up to the whole idea of natural medicine. And it's really, really difficult. So, I feel helpless, but that is the trigger, not the cause, as it were, because I know my body's doing this. This isn't my mum making me anxious. It's me making me anxious based on the information I'm getting. So I am coming through that now, a lot less clenching, a lot calmer. I'm noticing my cognitive capacity, you know, my ability to plan and think and create is beginning to come back online, because that totally went. The last few weeks I've just been in shutdown. You know, I could function, I could just about do the things I needed to do, but joy, creativity, play all disappeared. Horrible place to be, wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but it is gradually lifting. And next week I have another acupuncture session. It's slightly opening up now, so I'm not having them weekly. It's more like 10 days. And the herbs have changed once and will no doubt change again as he monitors my system. You know, this is natural medicine. It isn't like one size fits all, one drug for one problem. It's more about enhancing the body's capability to heal itself. And that is so different. And yes, it's painful, right? So in some way, it isn't easy. I could have gone to the GP and said, I'm anxious, got an antidepressant, which in 3, 4, 5 weeks may have numbed me to the point where I wasn't shaking or feeling so horrible. But I have no chance to heal from that, really, because that is taking down your nervous system responses totally. It's just sort of numbing you out in this grey zone in the middle where you'd feel neither high nor low. What I'm actually choosing to do, and please believe me, it's not been easy, is to ride the wave of this anxiety and understand that it's temporary, even though it's horrible, even though it was affecting my sleep and making me shake and feel really grim. That I know I can come through this with the right approach. And I'm just putting my faith in something I've tried before. Acupuncture I've tried before, and it's been very profound for me. So I'm not saying it's right for everyone, it won't be. And there are other solutions out there, you know, energy medicine, for instance, homeopathy. I know there's a great deal of controversy on homeopathy, but if you understand the energetic nature of water, that it's not simply molecules of H2O, but it's their vibration. And I'm a scientist, a trained scientist, PhD, so you may be surprised to hear me say that, but there are good scientific explanations for why homeopathy could work, and for some people it does. So, you know, I just say, try it, see if it works for you. Understand that natural medicine is not the same as symptom suppression, which is conventional medicine at the moment. You're not trying to just suppress what's going on, you're trying to actually come through it, and that is what's happening. So I will keep you updated, folks. Thank you for listening, and have a good day, week, year. All right, bye for now.